A lot of overcast again today. Of course, you get long shots. You don't see that boat mirroring as much in the water. Okay, this orange arrow is pointing at Fiddler's Point, which is 1 mile away from me. And then this next arrow is going to point at this marker, and that's only a couple 100 yards or 100 feet away from me. And then you also notice where the sun is glaring across the water, and I'll point that out here with this pink arrow. And that you can actually see more water beyond, Fiddler's Point. But I thought I'd put this picture in here just to point out these few things. And this is a full zoom back, so I am actually about a little ways away from the water that's out in front of me. So the weeds there you can see are just like maybe 20 feet out from me. And of course I'm going to zoom up on this boat, but I'm going to kind of show you a little bit how you can see water, and it almost gives you this appearance that that water's rising. Why? Because it is light refraction or light reflection, and any water beyond this, later on you'll see a little area that is above this visible water line, and I call that the mirroring area. And anything beyond that is just getting mirrored. So any water beyond that that's mirroring is just mirroring the sky. I know a lot of people have a hard time taking that into consideration, but when you look at the increments that this is, what are these boats riding on? Now, usually when I see a boat coming out from beyond Fiddler's Point, it's actually coming out of Hernando Beach. Hernando Beach is approximately let's see here, it's 3.58 miles from me, so about 3.5 miles from me where this boat comes out at. Now I'm a little out of focus, but I think it's more of the atmospheric conditions too. But I do right here, I get a little better focus on it. And then I want to show you this other thing here before I get into these increments. Okay, check out this guy on the boat right here where this yellow arrow is, and you literally see his boat. Now, this boat that's going to pass by him is a lot farther away, so that means that boat is way farther than the other boat, and it just appears like he's going to go right next to him, but he only appears to. Look how small he is in that boat. And then you got to take into consideration, if you've seen a guy on the closer boat, how much bigger he would be compared to that guy out there on that tiny little boat. Why? Because it's perspective. He's much further away. But you can even see how the wake of that boat, the big boat, kind of blocked him out. I try to show people this, and when you look at the increments, and I'm sorry about it being windy this day. It's not my tripod that makes my my camera shake. It's actually the remote that I use. And I've tried all kinds of different things to keep it from shaking so much, but it just doesn't happen. But I don't mind, because if I was trying to do this by hand, I would be shaking the camera a lot more. I'd be moving it a lot farther than what I need to. But my thing is in increments. If you look at the beginning of the video where that's a couple of 100 feet away from me, and then you got Fiddler's Point that's a mile away, but I'm seeing these boats well beyond it. It's not refraction, people, pulling it up. I'm actually seeing the boat on the water. You can see it. So what's getting refracted or what's getting hidden is getting hidden from refraction. It's not pulling it up from behind any curve. And that's what, science always wants you to believe, is that it's getting pulled up somehow. So how do you pull up? I mean, if I'm only able to see a little over 3 miles, standing up 6 foot high, then how is it able to pull up, 10 miles beyond that? Or let's say 8 miles beyond that when I'm seeing Cutter's Rock. Now, this particular day, I don't see Cutter's Rock, and you'll see why, because this whiteout background kind of blocks you out. But the sun was behind a lot of clouds, so I was able to actually see a little bit further and a little bit better with the sun's light being blocked behind a bunch of these clouds. Now, this is Bayport Bird Rack, but this boat isn't even nowhere near Bayport, because if you look, he's still coming out of the Hernando Beach Channel pretty much, but he's only appearing to go behind Bayport. It's like running two parallel lines, one on the left side of me, one on the right side of me, and me standing in the middle. Those lines are going to eventually look like they cut across each other, but they never do in reality. They're still parallel lines running directly across from each other at the same distance. That's what parallel means. So, people think that this boat's going directly in front of me, but it's actually not. And it's only given me the appearance of it, which is really strange when you take into consideration all of this stuff. Now here, looky, there's the Bayport North Rack, and he's way out there. Now, yes, he's in front, and he is going across my line of sight, but he's way further out than what he appears to be. I mean, Bayport Bird Rack was another 3.5 miles, or maybe a little less than 3.5 miles. So, he's still going out across there. And this is what's hard. When you look at the waves and you see how the waves start compressing and getting smaller and smaller and smaller and smaller. And this is what causes that mirroring effect with water, or with the sunlight glaring on it and reflecting off of it. It just causes this whiteout background. Now, as I'm following this boat, a little bit later on, the sun comes out, and I'll kind of get ahead of myself here a little bit. The sun comes out, I zoom back, and then I have to move my camera to, kind of show you that sun comes out from behind the clouds and lights up the water. And then when I try to go back to the boat to find it, I have a hard time finding it. Number one, I'm looking at a little viewfinder on the P900 camera. And yes, I use a Nikon Coolpix P900, for the people that do ask me, of course, with this kind of a zoom. But if you look at from when I first saw this boat and started tracking it compared to the size of it now, there's a big difference in the size of it. And it continues to get smaller. So this boat is actually leading away from me. And one of the ways I can tell that it's actually going away is because I'm seeing more of the back of the boat than I am the side of the boat. So he's constantly going away, away, away on an angle. Okay, he's going across the angle away from me, but out in front of me. And this is what's deceiving when you're viewing these boats. That last little, say, half an inch of water that you see in your screen is miles. That's a bunch of miles right there, all gathered up in this little tiny strip. And that's what's hard to get across to people, that this isn't just this miracle work of refraction pulling all of this water and this boat up from behind a curve. This boat has to be, and I'm going to guess at it because he's not all the way out there to the North Rack, which the North Rack, the Bayport North Rack, is 8.9 miles. So I would probably say that this boat is, 6 miles from me, maybe a little bit more. Wasn't quite all the way out to that north rack, but he was fairly close. Um, and when you take into consideration in increments of this water leading away from me when I'm pulled back, fully zoomed back, and if I take a picture like I did in the beginning, you can see that there's this little tiny strip out there of water that's miles and miles and miles long. But they only appear like if, here in a second or in a minute or so, we're going to see another boat out here that's much, much farther away from this boat. And you can tell because the boat is squashed. It's like almost flattened out, but you're seeing the whole boat, and maybe it is being kind of magnified a little bit or compressed and stretched out sideways. I've seen boats get compressed flat down, and then I've seen them get compressed and they not only get flat down, but out to the sides. And this is stuff that people don't quite get this. They don't observe enough. And I've been doing a lot of observational videos, and I'll tell you, it's really crazy stuff. Um, because science wants us to believe that this refraction is pulling everything up. But look at where this boat is at. And then when you see this other boat, look, they almost look like they're on the same water line. But the other boat, the farther boat, is actually getting compressed and pulled down due to the refraction or the light or the mirroring than it is getting pulled up from behind the curve of any sort. And here comes this little part right here. Now, I slowed this part down so you could take a good look at this boat. And here it comes up on the right hand side, and this boat is actually moving too. So it's kind of like, okay, you can see his riggers out. You can see how low it is to the water. And somebody wants to tell me that light refraction is pulling this boat up, which is miles and miles away from this other boat. Come on, people. Open your eyes. This is a boat sitting out there on the water that you can obviously see. And this particular day, I'm not getting a whole lot of mirroring. Why? Because the sun isn't out in full sky view. If you look back through some of my other boat videos, you'll see when it's fully blue sky, no clouds out there, this water just gets mirrored. Also, if you take into consideration different times of the year, when I'm out during like July and August, when the humidity is really high, these boats get distorted and just get to be turned into a blob before they even get to the Bayport bird rack. And people want to say, oh, this is refraction. No, it's called distortion due to the atmospheric water. Well, let's put it this way. It's not atmospheric. It's atmosphere, and it's due to the water molecules in the air. In the same way here, the water molecules in the air could be causing a big glare and causing everything to be whited out beyond that solid water line, or the visible water line. The hard water line is what I call it. So again, you're looking at a boat that's actually on the water. It's not being pulled up. You can see the waves. You can see this thing splashing water up. You can kind of see his wake if you really look hard. But even look at the water at the bottom of the screen compared to the water at the top of the screen. All of that is just because of my angle. It's called angular resolution. So because it's such on a sharp angle, the camera cannot resolve it. Now here the sun pops out, and this is where I zoom back. Can you see the boat? Yeah. Now, can you see the boat now? No, it's gone. And a lot of times I'm looking over my camera trying to see these boats, and a lot of times I might see a little grainy dot that is out there, and I can't make out what it is from the shoreline, but when I zoom in on it, there it is. Now, look at this boat. It's starting to get into that glare. It's starting to get some distortion done to it, but it's also kind of like vanishing within that glare line. It's kind of vanishing into that whited out background. And again, you know, a lot of people have a hard time understanding this. Now, I'm going to zoom back again here shortly because you can obviously see he's almost getting to that vanishing point within that whited out background. And I tried to explain these, but it's hard to explain. Plus two, now, if you kind of look, he's kind of getting into that mirroring area where the water's just mirrored. Now, you can see this white raised up line just above the water. That's where there's more water, and it's just the sunlight is just glaring off of it. Now, the sun came out pretty open in that there's a blue spot where all that light was coming from. Now, I try to zoom back in on this boat. Now, remember, I'm looking at a little 4-inch screen. I couldn't find him when I was there, but I noticed when I put it on my computer that he was there. I just couldn't see in the screen because he was more whited out. But you'll see it here in the video. I'm kind of looking for him, and I'm like saying, wow, I lost him. And I, you know, deleted all the audio in this just so you could, you know, I could just kind of talk over it because I didn't want to. I mean, look at that little line of glare at the surface of that water, and that's just glare water. And again, everything beyond that, the water line is much higher than this because my camera is actually looking down. Now there he was. So he was there, but he was like kind of going into that that veil. He was kind of hiding behind this whited out background, and that's where we lose things at. We lose it within that whiteout. It's like a man walking into a well lit room. He opens the door and the room's really, really bright, and he walks in and he vanishes in behind it. Same difference. Okay, it's just that you're not going to see it. Now I go back to looking for that north rack, and again it's kind of the same thing. There it was. You'll see it, but I can't see it in my screen because it's kind of whited out, and also, you know, it's kind of real small. So there's the Bayport, and I kind of go back looking for it, and you'll see it again in here. But I don't see it in that screen. There it is. But did you see it compared to when I showed it earlier? It was more visible earlier. Now that gleaming light, that light gleaming off the water is kind of hiding it. And that's where things get hidden at, within that glare. It's a glare, the glare off the water. Just like you see the glare when I zoom back and show you a full view of this, the sunlight streaming across the water toward me. And I like doing these observations, but sometimes it's hard to explain what's going on. I see what's going on, but again, it's hard to explain it, especially to a glober. But you see how this water actually looks like it's rising up right where the light is. It almost looks like it's rising up right there. But it's the glare. It's glaring up. See it? It's glaring up. And that glare is also what hides stuff behind it. Like sometimes I try to find Cutter's Rock on a bright day, and I cannot find Cutter's Rock. But I can find the Bill Watts. I can find Billy Steele's, which is 7 miles away. But when I try to find that 11-mile one, sometimes I can find it, sometimes I can't. But it does depend on how much light is hitting the water. And when you get all that glaring water, you get the glare just like the man walking into the well-lit room. You just can't see it. You're blinded by the light. So again, you know, I tell people don't believe me because you should go out and do these tests yourself and you will see it. And look at how above that water line. Look at that big glare line on top of that water, the hard water line. That is water beyond it, people. There's water beyond the visible water line. So take that into consideration. All right. Like, subscribe, share. Be kind in your comments, because I'm kind of sick of the troll comments, especially the stupid comments. Like, where's the water beyond these boats? Well, it's glared out. That's where the water is. It's within that glare. It's within the mirroring. All right. So people that's coming on my channel being rude and obnoxious, I'm not even going to answer them anymore. I'm just going to delete their comment because of their insulting ways. All right. Thanks. Have a good day. Hope you enjoyed it.